We are live.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the candidate forum for Kerala ISD Board of Trustees, hosted by Southlake Foundation. I am Samesh Reddy Nayana, and here with me is Stephanie Kane. We will be moderating this forum this afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay in the back? Yeah? So you also have two other moderators, Deepa Kolur and Anu Narayanan, helping us with the questions. If you guys have any questions, there's index cards here. We have volunteers up in the back. The high schoolers are here to actually help. So they'll pass the index cards over. You guys can submit those into Deepa's. So we're also going to get a lot of questions online. There's a lot of folks that have joined here on Zoom. So we're anticipating questions come through Zoom as well. So we do have our timekeepers here right up front. And thank you for being here, guys. I want to sincerely thank each of you for being here, taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We're very grateful for that. Also, I want to welcome the audience and that is here in person, and also those who have joined online via Zoom. Today, we're hosting candidates running for special election, Carroll ISD Place 7, Stephanie Williams and Andrew Yeager. All right. Thank you all for being here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie King, and I'm deeply honored to be co-hosting this candidate forum for Southlake Foundation today. Before we get started, we will commence with the Pledge of Allegiance, the Texas Pledge, and the National Anthem. I would like to invite Sindhu Guntur to lead us. Please rise.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight? For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the hope of the brave. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome the participation of the audience in these forums. So please feel free to ask questions if you're joining us on the Zoom chat, or if you're a member of the audience, as we mentioned, that there are volunteers around the room, high school volunteers that are taking index cards. So if you want to ask for one and get them to them, they will make sure that they make our way to us. And we hope that this discussion helps you to make an informed decision about who you think is the best candidate to lead our kids into the future. Remember that early voting for the Carroll ISD Board of Trustees begins on Monday, October 18th through Friday, October 29th. The last day to vote on Election Day, Tuesday, November 2nd.
Southlake Foundation is a non-profit organization that aims to bring the community together in an environment that promotes harmony and peaceful coexistence. The foundation involves Carol dragons in various activities to showcase their leadership skills. The foundation recently was awarded the prestigious 2021 Best Civic Organization of Southlake Award. Southlake Foundation is a non-partisan organization that does not support or endorse any candidates. It is a season to celebrate. The city of Southlake is celebrating 2 events in October. Tomorrow at the town square, we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. It is a free event for public to attend from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. We hope to see you all there. Then on October 30th, Southlake Foundation will host the 4th annual Diwali Fest in Southlake Town Square. Diwali is a festival of lights celebrated by people of Indian origin. Please join us and enjoy live dance performances. Bring your dancing shoes and your appetizers, as we plan to have plenty of opportunity to dance. Okay. We hope to see you all at these 2 events to celebrate the rich culture and diversity of our great city of Southlake.
Thank you, Sumesh. I would like to go over the format for this event. Each candidate gets 2 minutes for opening remarks and 2 minutes for closing remarks. Our timekeepers will give the candidates time cues for 30, 15, and 5 seconds remaining. And finally, when time is up. Next, we'll have a question and answer session. We received a lot of questions over the past several days. Thank you all for doing that. We've incorporated all that feedback into the questions we are asking today. Each candidate gets the chance to answer the same question. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer the question. To keep it fair, we will start the first question with Andrew, since your name starts with A.
And this is not a political thing at all, but I think if I could make a statement, and that was.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I think you'd agree on this one, and that was, is that okay?
Is it okay to just
Sure,
all due respect?
that's fine, no problem. I'll just use my time for this.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we're starting with Andrew with the your name starting with A for the first question, and then the second question will start with you, Stephanie, and the third question back to Andrew, and so on. Okay, and then just for general reminding ourselves of the proper decorum to maintain during this forum. Cell phones should please be turned off as a matter of courtesy. So I ask each of you to please take a moment to either turn off your phones or mute them now. Thank you. Attendees shall respect the rights of others and shall speak in a civil and courteous manner. The forum is not a debate. No interaction or debate among candidates will be allowed. No direct interaction with the candidates will be allowed from the audience. The audience cannot directly ask questions. Only the moderators will be allowed to interact with the candidates. The audience can submit their questions to the moderators through the index cards that we mentioned if you're in the room. And again, through the Zoom chat if you're joining us remotely. Grandstanding, speaking off topic, or off-color remarks will be called out of order by the moderators. And finally, no applause or cheering will be allowed until the end of the candidate forum.
Thank you, Stephanie. Before we begin the question and answer session, we would like to talk about the responsibilities of the school board and its members. According to the Texas Association of School Boards, the responsibilities of the board include: number 1, adopting goals and monitoring success. That includes developing a vision, adopting goals that will keep the district moving forward in a positive direction. Number 2, adopting policies and measuring effectiveness. Boards must adopt policies that are consistent with federal and state laws and regulations and should ensure they match district goals. Number 3, adopt, budget, and set tax rates. Number 4, communicate with the community about the plans and policies. Number 5, the school board is directly involved in hiring and evaluating the superintendent. Number 6, board members serve on advisory committees that provide input on topics such as budget, audit, strategic planning, bonds, and other measures. Let us begin with the opening remarks. Andrew goes first, followed by Stephanie. Andrew, you will have 2 minutes for your remarks. And please let the timekeepers know when you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead. So I'm sorry, folks, I didn't mean to be awkward there, but I wanted just to have something that's going to be part of my time. That's fine. But this past Thursday, we lost a dragon student. As some of you know, Peyton Christopher Brandt, son of a dragon teacher, Tracy Brandt. I just wanted to mention this because I thought it was appropriate that we say a prayer or a moment of silence for the Brandt family. I know I'd ask you to join me, mealtrain.com, mealtrain.com. You can go there. I know this community, I've already seen the numbers. They're wonderful outpouring. I think that's what makes our community great. So let's support this family and keep them in your prayers. That's okay if it took in my intro time. My name is Andrew Yeager. I've been in Southlake for 8 years with my family. We moved here because we wanted to. We weren't relocated. We were what we call Illinois refugees. We had lived in Illinois for 16 years where we had our 3 daughters. Those 3 daughters every minute. There isn't a day when I wake up and I have a cup of coffee, say a prayer, go out into the swimming pool, and I see that sun coming up over the east, and I just say, thank you, Lord, for letting me have all these many blessings in Southlake. I know many of you feel the same way. I was born and raised in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I don't hold it against me, you Buckeye fans. I'm going to have to be a Buckeye fan with our new quarterback going there. But I attended University of Michigan where I got my bachelor's degree. I also went to Marist College for my master's. I've spent 31 years in media sales management. In the past 3 years, I've also been a college professor. And I have had the privilege in my second year of teaching through the COVID pandemic. So thank you for that. I think that concludes who I am.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Williams. I'm the mom of 4 dragons, 2 Carroll graduates, one of whom has graduated from college and has a real job. It's very exciting. The other of whom is a junior at the Air Force Academy, and I have 2 current dragons, both a senior and a sophomore. I've been married to my lovely husband, Jay, for 26 years, and during that time, we've had the good fortune of living in 5 different states, but we're now on our 7th year here in Southlake. I'm a former classroom teacher with a master's degree in education from the University of Colorado Boulder, SCO Buffs. If elected, I would be the only trustee with a formal education and experience as a public school teacher. I was also a corporate trainer for Merrill Lynch, where I specialized in managed development and team building training. But for most of the last 20 years, I've been what my family has coined a professional volunteer. It began with leading moms groups when my oldest was an infant. And once my children were in school, I dove into their public schools in earnest. I've been copy mom and homeroom parent, PTO president twice, leader of junior grade book discussions during recess, part of the teacher appreciation week committees, and a CISD art docent, to list a few. I'm currently the president of Southlake Association of Gifted and Talented, the Gifted and Talented Booster Club, and I'm on the exec board of the Southlake chapter of the Young Men's Service League, where I have the fortune of working alongside my sons. I'm currently in the class Carroll Leadership Academy for Supporting Success, and I'm a CISD substitute teacher. Professionally, I'm an independent facilitator for Love and Logic, a parenting philosophy which empowers kids to lead healthy, responsible lives. And perhaps some of you may have even taken a class or know someone who's taken a class from me. And my love of teaching is extended into becoming a fitness instructor, which I currently do. I'm running for trustee because I believe students should be at the center of what we do, and my experience and background would bring that perspective to the school board. I believe all students should feel welcome and safe at school. Students, not politics, should be at the center of all we do, and we must protect the strong public schools that drew most of us to Southlake. Without a doubt, I'm the most qualified candidate for the position. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. So now let's start with question and answers. We've gotten a lot of feedback, like I said earlier, from the community over the last couple of days. The Southlake Foundation volunteers have actually done a great job collecting all of that, synthesizing those questions, and actually come up with a set of questions that we're going to be asking today. You also have a chance, like we said earlier, you can submit your questions using those index cards, and then we'll actually collate those and then bring forward for Stephanie and Andrew. So with that, the first question is for Andrew. And then same question goes to Stephanie after Andrew's done. Andrew, what was the moment that compelled you to run for school board? What skills do you bring to the table that make you a good candidate for this role?
So I guess we're going to go right into CCAP right away. What happened is many of us in the community were surprised by a document that was 34 pages that wanted to really change the culture of our schools and our curriculum. I had never gone to a school board meeting since I had been in Carroll. I had been absolutely pleased with everything that we had seen up until last summer. And when I got a copy of that, there was something that jumped off the page, and it was the policing of microaggressions. There's something I'm very proud of as an American and makes our country so unique and exceptional, and that is our First Amendment, and that is free speech. Why this had a particular interest in me was that microaggressions were tried at my university, University of Michigan, and in 2017, a federal judge just told the university they had to disband an over $10 million program that was policing microaggressions. Literally, this is how it went. If you were in a dormitory and you said something to another student at the University of Michigan, the bias response team, that's the name of the program, they could actually have a disciplinary action to a student, intended, unintended. It was such a chilling effect on free speech. The federal judge ruled it unconstitutional, and Michigan had to completely take it down. When I saw that in the CCAP, I got involved. I said, never is that going to happen at our schools.
What compelled me to run was the distraction from children that has happened over the last year and a half. Students are why we're all here. We moved here because of the excellent schools, and the focus of any school district should be the students. We've got distracted by avid partisanship, and politics have worked their way into schools in a way that should not be happening in a public school system. A public school system is a safe and welcoming place for all students, regardless of your background or ethnicity or your sexual orientation. Public schools should be welcoming and safe. And so when I saw the distraction, when I saw how we were getting away from kids, when I went to school board meetings and didn't hear any talk of children or programs or ways we were supporting or challenging in positive ways our students, that's when I decided that as an educator, I needed to get involved. I was going to bring a perspective to the board that isn't currently there. I have a formal education in education, and there's no perspective like that on the board. And I felt like maybe I could, not maybe, that I could help refocus our board and to be a student-focused board where our actions and the things we do are based on what is best for our students. I also believe that if we get back to talking about kids, we're going to find common ground because all of us want what's best for our children and for our students in our community.
Thank you. And then the next question starts with you, Stephanie. Are you satisfied with the current state of Carroll ISD? And what are 3 things you have seen work well in other school districts that you would like to see implemented in CISD?
I am satisfied, absolutely. I have seen my 2 kids who graduated from Carroll flourish in college, but I also am one as a parent and as a teacher and as a Love and Logic facilitator who believes we can always do better. I think that when we begin to be stagnant or just do something because it's the way it's always been done, then we run the risk of not moving forward while the rest of the world does. As far as things I've seen that outside of Carroll, I've had, as I mentioned, the perspective of having lived in 5 different states. And each time we chose our community based on the public schools. I'm a product of public schools, and as is my husband, and all my children are as well. And our commitment was to always be in a community with strong public schools. So I can bring information. For instance, we had a fantastic organization in the New Trier district where we lived on the North Shore of Chicago called FAN, Family Action Network, that offered different creative speakers, books, discussions that could educate our community about the latest and greatest in education, philosophy, research, all that. That is one thing I would bring in. I also believe that the Carroll Medical Academy is one of the things that makes Carroll special. And my son had the fortune of being part of that organization. And I believe that we have to look outside to see how we can expand on that, perhaps to IB programs for things like the International Baccalaureate. We can't do that, but we can absolutely grow our business academy with the AP capstone, and we can use our great STEM facility to continue. And we can look outside our district for other high-performing districts and bring best practices back here to Carroll.
Thank you, Stephanie. I also want to bring your attention that the questions are on the TVs in the front and the back of the room. If you need to reference them, please let me know if you'd like us to, either one of us, if you'd like us to repeat the question as well.
Okay. Am I satisfied with the current state of ISD? You can go with anything. So yes and no. I mean, yes, kind of like Stephanie, it prepared my two daughters tremendously. I mean, getting into these state schools is difficult. We have a wonderful reputation in doing that. I'd like to point out my oldest daughter. She was the first year of the STEM engineering program. She had a wonderful teacher, and her teacher is the type of teacher that I'd like to attract more of at our school, and that is having a strong background outside of academics. She happened to have worked at Sabre, so she was instrumental in getting my daughter an internship, which I know led and helped her to get to where she is in the BBA program and the master's program there at UT. So lots of things going on. We're going to probably touch on some of the things that I'd like to improve. We basically didn't start this school year and the last school year ready for school. This year in particular, we did not have positions that were filled. We had a lot of transition, I know, in administration, but that's not an excuse. And that is one of the things that I will bring to the school board. And that is, as you said before, the school board is the accountability and oversight of the administration. I don't think that was going on. It's the best of my friends, Hannah and Cam, who were new to the board. We needed everybody to be doing that quite a while ago. And so that's what some of the things that we can work on, and the school board can help. Other ideas, I like IB. I don't know how that would work, but I had a cousin who was very influential in that in the state of North Carolina. I love vocational skills. I grew up making things in shop and woodworking. I even made an apron that my mother still has in home ec. I learned how to balance a checkbook. It might sound very practical, but I think some of these skills could be wrapped into a class that would be useful. I love the idea of culinary programs, and there are other schools that have that, and maybe even perhaps some idea of online learning, and that might even generate new revenue streams.
The next one is back at you again. So if you're elected, what do you want to accomplish by the end of your tenure? What new academic and sports programs and offerings would you like to add to CISD?
So if there would be a goal, it would be kind of a bigger goal. And that was to hashtag make school board meetings boring again. I agree with Ms. Williams, Stephanie. And that is, there is a lot of common ground. And I want all of us to sort of reach and be that sort of higher angel. There's a lot of things going on social media. I think when Dr. Ledbetter said recently, he said, this isn't going to be solved on social media. I would like to ask my opponent, Stephanie, if she'd agree, and people in the room here, let's stop this. It's disgusting. Okay, thank you. Because when you have fake Twitter pages made for me, showing my family, doxing me, tagging my company, and I know Stephanie feels the same way, that's not a good reflection of Southlake. And I know I'm looking at our spouses who are shaking, saying, yes, that's a great idea. I'd love to see a business program, right? The academies are great. We got to protect them, which means that they've got to be based on merit. We cannot water down our academies. So many people in this room love those academies, but part of it is that they're excellent based. And I understand the term equity. It's been around this town a lot, but equity and excellence collide when it comes to curriculum. And I think we have to say, let's embrace excellence, whether it's on the athletic field, which we do so well, or academically. It's something I think that we just have to think about. What is that special sauce that has made this school so great, that's helped prepare your kids and mine for the next chapter?
Stephanie.
All right, two things that I would like to bring is a business academy. As I said, we have started with the AP capstone, and I believe we can grow that. We have a lot of wonderful resources in our community with business leaders, and we can absolutely capitalize on that opportunity. More of an engineering academy as well. We know that we have a fantastic STEM facility, which I mentioned. There is a certification. We can grow that program. It could be more like the Carroll Medical Academy. It's been since 2004 since we implemented an academy. It's time for us to innovate. Once again, if we're able to get back focused on kids instead of partisanship, I believe we'll be able to do that. One of the keys, I think, to our success is attracting and retaining teachers and making teachers feel valued and respected. And something that I come to learn during my time as a CISD substitute is there's no instructional coaching here in our district. And that was shocking to me. As a school teacher, I received instructional coaches through the district where I taught. It's instrumental to helping our teachers grow and develop. And it's certainly something that's being offered in surrounding and like districts. So we need to keep up with that and be able to offer that program or that support. And finally, in terms of sports, I happen to have a lacrosse player, and it is not a UIL sport, so it would be great to see, as I know water polo was intended to do last year and is hopefully moving forward this year to become a sanctioned UIL sport. It would be wonderful to see lacrosse proceed that same way.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. And this next question is for you as well. Our district has seen some divisiveness in recent times. How will you promote diversity and inclusion in schools, and what is your specific plan of action to unify the district?
Well, my plan of action for unifying is getting us back to kids. I know I sound like a broken record. It needs to be our focus. Students are what makes Carroll special. Students are what makes any school district special. And if we get back focused on them and finding ways to make sure they all feel welcome and safe, then we can do that. In terms of how to do that, in terms of diversity and inclusion, as I've stated publicly, I am in support of a program or a structured way that we can find ways to make kids feel welcome and safe. We've heard from over 500 of our current and former students to saying that they have not felt that way. And when you don't feel safe in an environment, we all know as adults that we're not able to maximize what we're able to do. So that's first. If I want my kid to excel, I need my child to feel comfortable in a space. And so whether that means we focus on empathy, just the simple thing of being a good human. Doesn't matter how much we agree on or don't agree on, it matters how we treat one another. And I also think that starts with civility between adults. To Andrew's point, the banter that's gone online on my social media pages by people in opposition to me is not the way I want my children to behave, and it's certainly not an example to our students. And I can tell you that I will behave in a way that is civil. I have shown that throughout my speeches at the school board meetings, and I will encourage other community members to behave in the same way.
Thank you. Would you like to repeat the question?
Yeah, I have super glasses.
They're not super duper glasses, they're just super.
Sure. You touched on it a little bit. Our district has seen some divisiveness in recent times. How will you promote diversity and inclusion in schools? And what is your specific plan of action to unify the district?
You bet. So, growing up in Ann Arbor, I had 40 different nationalities that were in my elementary school. My best friend was Kurt Rodriguez from Panama. I never experienced anything along racism because it was such a great kind of melting pot. Southlake has become a melting pot. One thing through this whole CCAP process I really realized is a couple things. One, there was a great chart. This is actually a couple things I really did like on CCAP. There's a great chart. It showed in 2008 that we were in 88+% white as a ISD, and that's now dropped down to 66%. I think the numbers right. We are becoming more diverse all the time because people of every ethnicity have the same idea. And Stephanie, you said it, and that's moving here because of the schools. So that's why keeping the schools, they're becoming diverse automatically. It's just happening. because they're attracting so many great people from really around the world. Respect, accountability, transparency. And when I heard some of those stories from the students over the last year talking about incidents they had, I wasn't judging whether it happened or not or anything. What was going through my mind was, I wish I could have been on the school board. I wish I could have been a teacher for them. I wish I could have done something to get that incident reported, get that incident the proper way through the channels to make that student, that parent, everybody feel that it was handled quickly. We can do that with the right training, which I know has happened again, and all the changes that have occurred to the student code of conduct. I went to a military school in my summers. You couldn't even walk on grass. We had a very tight code of conduct. And we treated everybody with respect.
Thank you. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit and do something fun. We're going to have some quick rapid fire questions, just, off the cuff. Yeah. And we'll start with you, Andrew.
Okay, all right.
What is your favorite app on your phone?
Yelp for 500.
Mine is my
Do you
podcast
mind?
app. Oh,
No,
sorry.
sorry, 500.
Love podcasts. Can't get enough of them.
All right, next one. Name one thing you like about your opponent.
She may not have been in corporate America for a while for teaching, but man, you did a lot of volunteer stuff. I think we have a lot of people, but yours is impressive. And I think that's wonderful.
I like that Andrew is stepping up in a climate that is difficult to step up in.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will start with
Does it
you.
go back to slow now?
Yeah.
I was not ready.
Andrew, what is one thing about you that most people do not know?
This sounds weird, but I have to say it. I'm not supported financially by any group, organization, or PAC. There's a chuckle out there. What's great about this is that our treasurers, right, both of our treasurers get to send in the report. We had to do it yesterday. Okay, good. I got mine in. And that, as well as the next report that will be coming up next month, will show that just individuals. And I know sometimes it's hard because you can't look behind the curtain. I don't know everybody who supports and endorses is likewise, but I'll say it publicly, and that is that I can't accept it, I won't, and I don't. So I'm happy to have endorsement of the Southlake Families Organization. They looked at me as a candidate who, frankly, they want to win. So I kind of felt very honored that they came to me and said, "How about you?" And I'm like, okay. It's been a lot of fun, but it's something that I want people to understand is that my integrity is something that I value. I work on in the business world. I work on as a college professor. I have a 4.9 rating out of 5. I feel good about that. And I'm fully transparent. So everything about me is on my website, LinkedIn. I see a lot of people come there. By the way, if you come see my LinkedIn page, I can see you do that. Just a little FYI. But I have nothing to hide. I just like to, I'm so blessed to be here, and this is a wonderful opportunity to give back to my community.
Thank you, Stephanie.
One thing people may not know is I am a distance runner, or if you do know I'm a distance runner, you may not know that I didn't get into that until after I had my 4th child. I had 4 children in 6 years. We were living in Tampa, Florida. I had no family nearby. My husband traveled all the time. And I had run kind of for fun starting in my 20s. And there was a women's only running group at a nearby school. And next thing you knew, I was there and they were talking about marathons, and I thought, that is crazy. And then here I am 13 marathons later. I did a 50K for my 50th birthday. And in February, I ran a 50-mile trail race. So why is that important about me? Well, it shows that I can put in work. I can get out there and run for 4 hours just to train to get to that point. I know how to grind. I know how to give my all, and I know how to push when it gets hard. And so that's something people may not know about me in terms of how I develop those skills.
Thank you, Stephanie. The next one is again for you. This is the toughest question in the city, and I'm sure it's on everybody's mind. So, do you have any idea when the Whitechapel Road construction will be done? It's been going on for 10 years now. I've seen all my kids come to school. And so.
If only I could tell you when. I just hope there's a sidewalk when it is finally done. Yeah, don't you want a sidewalk?
More sidewalks. More cowbells.
Sidewalks, absolutely. And I have no idea, but I am endorsed by every city council member, mayor, and the last 3 mayors, and somebody has an answer to that question. I'm going to ask them.
Well, thank you both for having some fun with us and allowing us to get to know you a little bit better in a fun way. So let's continue on with the rest of the questions that were submitted by the community. So now we're back to you, starting with you, Andrew. What is your stance on COVID protocols in schools? Specifically, what is your opinion on wearing masks in schools, online learning, and vaccination?
That's a lot. So I'm going to might have to once in a while look at the board. So let's talk about COVID protocols in schools, specifically masks. So masks, I believe that the school administration got it right. But first of all, we're following the law of the state. And even if you wanted to have a mask mandate, just consider this. I don't disrespect your opinions at all. I understand anybody who has safety on their mind. But school districts are getting sued. Ken Paxton's taking school districts to court. So if we went down that road, we're probably going to get sued, right? So that's just not, to me, it's not something that we can do. But what we can do is anybody who wants to have a mask, like in this room, I respect that decision, and we should embrace those people for making that personal decision. We should not ostracize them. And I'm talking about, again, I love how you say leaders. We can, as parents, make people feel comfortable for whatever decision they want, so that kids are doing the same type of mirroring that type of attitude in our schools. And in terms of online learning, you know what? As I said, my second year being a professor in college, I went through this. I got an email, I had to take my course. The email came over spring break of 2020, and it said, Mr. Yeager, take your course in 2 weeks, your whole syllabus, and push it online. And I teach a course that's about communication. And 90% of communication is nonverbal. So taking an in-person class on communication to virtual was very tricky. And I learned all the things that you lose. And this is why I am a big fan of in-person learning, because there's learning loss that's associated with that. I'll touch on that later. And that we can do it in the most safe possible manner.
Well, as an educator and a lifelong learner, I firmly believe that as an education organization, we need to follow experts. And we received over 100 of our community members who are physicians, that means they have training in the medical field, made recommendations for COVID protocols, none of which were followed or really even seemed to be considered by our current board. So with that in mind, I feel like also as an education organization, we can be innovative, right? So while a portion of the population did not want their children to be masked, we could have certainly done some innovative things for having masked classrooms. We could have done a masked campus. We could have done a lot of different things, particularly for the most vulnerable, those who are under 12 who cannot be currently vaccinated. So we certainly could have thought outside the box in a way that would have made everyone feel more comfortable and happy with the situation. As far as vaccinations go, just like we have vaccination requirements, we're going to follow the guidelines of the state. We're going to follow the guidelines of those medical professionals. So I just encourage us to listen to those rules. The recommendations I'm making in terms of thinking innovatively and offering, say, a masked classroom in the K-4 setting for those kiddos who aren't vaccinated, that wouldn't have been in violation because it would have been a choice that the families could have made. It would not have been in violation with the governor's directive. And then I don't know if folks are aware, but there was House Bill 15, which allowed for 10% of our population to go virtual without losing any funding. So we had that option, and our district again did not choose to pursue that.
Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie, this was for you again. Teachers impact children's experience at their school. Hiring teachers can be really challenging, right? Especially hiring them with the right skills and experience. How would you retain talent and attract top talent to CISD?
Well, I mentioned earlier, one way to retain and attract talent is to offer that instructional coaching support. Teachers coming and knowing that they're going to have the opportunity to develop their skills as a teacher in a less threatening environment. I listened to the panel of principals at the most recent class, and they talked about the fact, and it was them that mentioned the importance of instructional coaching, which we don't currently have. It makes us competitive with surrounding districts, and it makes teachers want to come here and stay here. The other challenge is we want to make this an environment that is student focused. And when teachers both in our district and outside our district are seeing the strife that's happening and the lack of focus on education, I think that makes it challenging. So getting back to the business of kids will help make teachers continue to want to work in Southlake. We want it to be the place people want to come. And then also having those innovative programs, offering programs like CMA, like the engineering program. All those different programs are going to attract teachers and say, hey, I want to work there. I want to. And he talked about the challenge of getting even 2 teachers in front of them because they can't travel to TCU, SMU, A&M. So we have to think creatively, which we can do, but those kinds of restrictions are ultimately impacting our students.
Okay. 2 words. You want to attract and attain, retain teachers, pay them more. It's 3 words. Pay them more. The current school board did a great job balancing the budget this year, getting 2% raise for teachers. Not enough. As I mentioned, I'm a current teacher. I like to see teachers get a lot more money. We deserve it. It's hard right now to be a teacher. I don't think it's ever been harder. COVID, everything that's going on with CRT, you can't win as a teacher. And I feel for them. I guess I can't feel for myself, but I feel for them. And how do we support them? We support them by ponying up, getting more money. That means, yeah, we have to be creative. The way I think you have to be creative is in the budget process. We need new revenue streams in this school. We need them now. I've got some ideas. We can talk about them perhaps a little bit later. But I want to say that if we don't look at that budget and understand and make a way to get not 2, but 3% and more in a couple years in a row, our teachers are at the bottom third for the state of Texas. I'm proud to be a Dragon. That does not make me proud. If I get elected, I will see that we get those teachers to the top third as fast as possible. And that's going to be tough, but we can do it. We can work on that budget, find new monies, and then that is the way to retain it. As one teacher said to me recently, and I asked him about pay, he said, you know what, I've been here for 20 years. And they say, you're lucky to work here. That's not an answer we should ever be giving a teacher.
Thank you. Andrew, this question is for you. What school or community activities or organizations have you been involved with?
Band Ed. So you might not see me, I was like Spider-Man and behind the scenes. But for 2 years, I was trained before COVID hit. And I was the guy who was taking all those big parking plastic signs at football games and it was a huge money generator. And I kind of like running for school board. Hey, would you come to one meeting? And the next thing you know, you're the guy doing all that. That has been wonderful. Chaperoning when I can. We've also been involved. One of my proudest moments was actually in the dad choir. And that was when I had my middle daughter and we were singing at Whitechapel Church, and we had all the dads up. It just tells you how cool the instructors were. And also the idea, it's more community, but we've been blessed in that is that our middle daughter went to Japan with the Southlake family sister cities program. We had another one that was ready to go and then COVID hit. So that's a program that my wife and I volunteer with and love.
Well, volunteering in the schools is kind of my jam. So I have been an art docent for several years where I taught kids in the classroom. I've been on the teacher appreciation committee several times because I do believe in showing our teachers that we appreciate and value them. I've had several roles with SAGIT, which is our Gifted and Talented Booster Club. I've been secretary. I was second VP and now I'm president. YMSL, Young Men's Service League, part of the organization is you have a role, but I chose to take a step further and I'm on the executive board of that. I was the leader of the swim parent community group. So our swim team that had the fortune of winning 9 consecutive state championships here in Carroll. I know we don't often hear about our swimmers and our runners, but they are rock stars too. I was part of the parent group that coordinated everything. I was the leader of the parent group. And then I've done the jobs, that we have to get down and dirty and copy mom, homeroom parent, all those things. But I always say that it's really a selfish reason because it feeds my need to be near children and educators and teachers. And I get to have relationships with people like Gina Petty, who's our curriculum director, and develop those relationships so that when an issue arises, I know who I can talk to and get information from to help resolve different issues. So it is really what I do and what I enjoy most about my adult life is my volunteerism.
The next one is for you again. Lately, the school board meetings have gotten very contentious. And this is on both sides of the aisle, right? And as a trustee on the board, you may encounter disagreements and conflicts within and outside the board. So 2 questions here. One is, what approach will you take to bring civility back? And the second thing is, how do you personally resolve those conflicts?
To the first question, lead by example. I would invite you to look at any of the speeches I have given or any of the video of the last year plus of my interactions in school board meetings, and I have behaved civilly. I have not resorted to name calling. I've stayed focused on our students and protecting them and talking about them and trying to get the conversation back to them. I also think it's about leading with civility in interactions. I was in a recent focus group to the strategic planning and saw a real lack of civility by some of the members of leadership in our district. And I would not and did not behave that way. So I think leading by example is key. And then our second question is the efforts to get civility back. Well, I was a team building facilitator. That's what I did at Merrill Lynch. I did management development and I did team building. So I understand how to build consensus. And one way to do it is you have to dialogue. The TRO has restricted any discussion around diversity and inclusion or how to protect our kids. And I don't want my children to think that's how you deal with disagreement. I want my children to know that when there's disagreement, you can come together, put everything out on the table, find common ground, which are our students and our want for CISD to be a great place for all kids. And so I would encourage that kind of consensus building. I would not come in, I'm not coming in with any agenda or any beholden to any group. And so I would come in with an open mind to do that. And just as a quick add-on, if we want to find money for things like instructional coaches and all of that, we spent $500,000 on legal fees, and that might be a good place to have some cost savings.
So as I said, my campaign, one of my slogans is hashtag make school board meetings boring again. So I think it was probably perfect for this question. So thanks for the tee up. There's a word that Stephanie, that you've used, and there are people in this community that have used, and I don't think it's the right tone. And it would be great to hear you say, I'm not going to use that word again. I'm not going to be associated with that word. The word is demand. I didn't find it appropriate that the word demand be something that was reiterated and reiterated by so many people that, again, you can't control your supporters, I understand, but many of your supporters, they didn't ask the school board to take a look at things. They didn't say, here's a suggestion. Please look too at my videos. Every time I went to this school board, I was very social and very deferential to the board members. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate anything in life. And I see so much hate in this idea of people going to the school board and making demands, signing letters of demands. It's just not a word. 31 years of building teams, managing people. I've been all over this country talking to ad agencies and clients, and you know what? I've never heard the word ever on my clients or even my bosses, demand. It's a bad word that needs to leave this town's vocabulary. It does nothing but divide everybody. So that's one thing that I would do, is change the vocabulary of these meetings. And again, I know my supporters believe in that hashtag. They use that hashtag because they know that is a goal of mine. We're going to make these meetings boring. Nobody will be tuning in anymore because we'll be getting along and working together, as you like to say, two common goals.
Thank you both. So those are the questions that we had planned today, and we've received lots of questions from the audience, both online and in the room. So thank you again for that. We're going to shift over to those and have, again, put them into like themes to come up with these questions here that we've selected. So this one starts with you, Stephanie. Do you support having counselors available to address mental health issues students have?
100%. As Andrew pointed out at the beginning, we unfortunately just experienced a loss in our community. Mental health is important as any academic skill that I can give my child or children. As I mentioned, my relationship with Gina Petty, just yesterday, we had a SAGIT meeting, and she said something that I found just very telling and informative for where we are, that there's more than getting the curriculum covered. We got to take care of our kids. And our counselors are there. They're just as I have a formal education in how to educate. I'm not an adjunct professor. I was an actual trained teacher. These folks are trained in how to deal with children, how to deal with situations. There is so much research that shows if a child has a relationship with one other adult in their life, it could be their parent, but it might be a counselor, might be a teacher, a coach, that they are less likely to commit suicide. So I think getting those counselors out, as the board is taking steps to do, and I'm supportive of, where they are able to interact with students and meet them where they're needed, rather than just be someone who does their schedule. I would absolutely support that, as well as any program that would advocate for student mental health.
When I heard about the tragic loss of this student, my very first email was to someone within the school district to say, how many counselors do we have, and do we have enough? And it was 26. And I can't tell you if that is enough, but it's something that if I was elected, I would look into right away. And all of us that are parents, we know the amount of peer pressure. And there was something, an idea that Stephanie had, and I think agreeing or disagreeing agreeably, right, is something that's important. And I'm going to disagree with one idea that she had here. Here's why, because it's tied into this. The idea of having classrooms where you have just masked or unmasked, I don't know what message that would send to an elementary school student, right? Something that I found really despicable. As I said, my background being in a very diverse elementary school my whole life. When I saw CCAP and I saw elements of CRT, which I'm glad SB 3979 address kit. But anytime you say one race, when skin color ethnicity is superior or one's inferior, it kind of reminds me of a room with masks and a room without masks. Our children cannot have these messages that they're different. Celebrate differences, but don't divide on these differences. I don't want to see it ever in our curriculum. I don't want to see it on the sport fields. I don't want it anywhere in our life at all. And it's segregation is what it sounds like. And I hate to say I didn't live through it, but it's just something I don't want. So this is an area we're going to have to disagree on, but I will do so respectfully.
Thank you, Andrew. Next question is for Andrew. How will you solicit and use feedback and input from parents with whom you disagree? It's not in the problem. So how will you solicit and use feedback and input from parents? Solicit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Solicit and use feedback and input from parents with whom you disagree.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that Stephanie probably agree on is when you're a candidate, either people take your calls and want to meet you or they want to meet you. I can't figure it out. But I've had so many wonderful discussions with parents, whether it was going door to door, it was coffees, etc. I hope that doesn't end. Maybe it's a question I have to ask Hannah and Kim is, I think you still get to speak with parents, probably more often than not. I feel like if I were on a school board, the measure of my success would be perhaps someone in this room who wasn't voting for me still felt that they could email me, that they could call me, and then I would get back to them. And that we would have an open conversation and dialogue. That to me would be something that would be a great goal. So I know my door has always been open. I am meeting and I'm replying to people who I know don't like me. They DM me. I've never heard of the person. I take the time to vet it. I get back to them because I feel that's what we do and that sort of respect. I've lived my whole life that way.
How will you solicit and use feedback and input from parents with whom you disagree?
Thank you. Thanks. So soliciting feedback, to Andrew's point, one of the beauties of running for this board position is getting to talk to people in our community. And perhaps because of misinformation that's being shared about me or just a misunderstanding about where I stand, I've had the opportunity to speak with a lot of people who may come in thinking that we don't have any common ground. And it's been a wonderful opportunity to talk with them about what their hopes and dreams are for their kids, what their concerns are. I have made it clear at each time I've had interactions with individuals in the community that I'm open to discussion. Again, I think one of the things that is distracting us from the work of children is our inability or the resistance to have dialogue. And so I am absolutely open and always will be open to discussing what anything that related to students at CISD, even with those I don't agree with. I think we can disagree agreeably, but I also think we have to move forward. And in order to do that, we have to have conversations and we have to have those tough conversations. And I'm committed to doing that as a trustee. Oh, and I don't think that ends once we're elected. I think it's really important that once we're elected, we continue to do that, especially with those who maybe didn't vote for us, that is our obligation as trustees. It's not a mandate by just those who voted for us.
All right, so the next one goes to you again, Stephanie. What is your plan to properly enforce the student code of conduct? As you know, there is no staff training to do so. It has been enforced in a random and subjective manner. Do you agree? How will you change this?
I do agree that it's been, it has not been consistently enforced. And one thing that I think is the lack of education and understanding about it. It's a pretty cumbersome document. We talked about CCAP being 34 pages. This is over 100 pages. And even Mr. Butler, who oversees the process, talked about it being cumbersome. So we need to winnow it down and make it a more manageable document. I also believe that it is one piece of student interaction. So when someone has an infraction or there's something goes wrong, there's a student code of conduct that tells you how to deal with that infraction. We need to make sure it's being consistently enforced. And that means that when your child or my child ends up in the hot seat, I can't come in and save the day. As a Love and Logic facilitator, Love and Logic teaches that choices have consequences. And so unfortunately, if my kiddo is in the hot seat and I come in and I save him or ask for a different special treatment, then I'm teaching him that there really aren't consequences to behavior. And unfortunately, that happened way too often in the past. So consistent application, education around it. I know that Mr. Butler is committed to doing that, making sure administrators understand the student code of conduct, but also having a partner piece with it, which is the education piece that hopefully prevents us from getting to that situation. I don't just expect my kids to make good choices. I teach them about the consequences of poor choices. So we need the education piece that will hopefully prevent infractions that lead to student code of conduct situations.
Thank you. Yep, I'll repeat it again for you, Andrew. What is your plan to properly enforce the student code of conduct? As you know, there is no staff training to do so. It has been enforced in a random and subjective manner. Do you agree? How will you change this?
So yes, I agree. And as I said before, I think that's one of the shames of what happened in years past. And Stephanie, you're absolutely right. It was not enforced consistently. And there was perhaps I'm not saying this to any in particular person in administration, but I think we had a period of time in the schools where some tough decisions were pushed down. This was in the meeting that were pushed down to principals and then people that enforced the code of conduct. And you saw very big inconsistencies. As I said before, I wish I could have gone back in time when there was an incident and then made sure it was dealt with promptly and we didn't have all these things, which really kind of maybe simmered and brewed. So that's what we saw. That was the result of it not being consistently enforced. Enforcement, though, cannot be the same for a 12th grader as it is a 3rd grader. So we got to think about the enforcement being appropriate for the age. And you go even younger. A kindergartner is going to take, I hate to say that term again, a microaggression. They have no idea that they've just slighted somebody at all. A senior should know better. So I'm absolutely fine with the idea. By the way, that this code I have heard is, you're right, it's long. It's too long and it makes it tough. It is going to be simplified. There's a plan to do that soon. I was talking with one of our administrators about that. And that will make it easier to understand for the students. It'll make it easier to be trained. And I did also hear that the changes that were implemented this year, that there was training. I don't know if you got that said, but there was training of the faculty to start the year of the code of conduct. And I'll just end in this. One of the things I love about being an Aggie dad is how the code of conduct at that school is enforced. And I think that's a wonderful role model for us.
So we got a lot of questions, but I don't think we can take all of that. So we got 2 more coming up, and after that, we'll give you a chance to actually do a 2-minute closing. So the next question, again, Andrew, if you're ready. So do you support SROs, school resource officers?
Absolutely. The other night, I had the pleasure of being with the former mayor who's endorsed me, John Terrell. And John explained the history of the SROs after Sandy Hook. There were parents, rightly so, across America who said, what are we going to do to make our schools safer? John, in a wonderful act of leadership and statesmanship, got all these parties involved. And as the mayor, I love what he told me. He said, Andrew, I felt it was our duty as a city council and a mayor to protect our children. Forget the school. If we don't protect children in our society, in our community, then we're failing. And that's what led to this beautiful relationship of our SROs, Southlake's finest, which has won awards for this, And when I saw that my opponent had signed the demand letter that I read, the SARC demand letters, I was very surprised that anybody in the state of Texas would ever sign something where there was a demand, and it's right there, to disband the SROs. I know you talk about safety. I love the idea of keeping our kids safe. I don't know in my mind how possibly changing that at any time or signing anything that would say I agree to that would be the right thing to do. We're a constitutional carry state now. We've absolutely got to have people that are armed to prevent anything from happening. So we're blessed to have it. We're blessed that the city funds a good part of that. And I would never sign anything to have that another way.
So let me just start by saying I absolutely support our school resource officer program. And I just want to make a real quick clarification. There are legal documents. For instance, when I purchased my home, I understand when I signed my signature there, I was obligated to pay my mortgage. And there are ways we can show students that we support them, and more importantly, that we hear them. The students that are part of SARC have been harmed. They have come to the district and said that in a lot of different ways. And this demand letter was one way they were doing that. And to be clear, first off, I'm not a politician. So I signed it as a parent, I signed it as a teacher, and I signed it as someone in the community that wanted young people who were saying they had been harmed, that they were being heard. So that does not mean I'm for defunding the police or that I'm for getting rid of the SRO programs. That means that I want children to know that there are adults in their life who listen to what they're saying. And as educators, that's our obligation. So that is where also I just want to say that as I said, once again, I fully support the SRO program, but also I just want to say safety goes beyond physical safety. And we absolutely are fortunate here in Southlake for a myriad of reasons, including SROs, that our students by and large are safe at school physically, but there's also that mental piece that we talked about earlier that I think we need to address.
Thank you. So this is our last question, and we'll start it off with you, Stephanie. Please explain your education and work history in detail.
Well, as I said, I went to the University of Colorado Boulder for an undergraduate degree in psychology and elementary education, which afforded me the opportunity to spend thousands of hours in elementary classrooms, volunteering, watching master teachers work. I then became a classroom teacher and was fortunate to be in an elite program through a graduate program where I received my graduate degree in education as well. So I have a master's in education. At that time, I'm an instructional coach, and I was able to further grow my skills as an educator. Once I left the classroom, I moved into just teaching bigger people. Instead of teaching the littles, I taught adults as a corporate trainer at Merrill Lynch, and was fortunate to start out as a financial planning trainer, and where we had subject matter experts, much like if you serve as an adjunct professor, you're absolutely an expert in your field. And we had those folks who helped me because I was the facilitator, I was the educator, and then went into management development and also into team building. And then from there, I had 4 children. As I said, in 6 years, I moved 5 times in 10 years. So we did lots of different, I got engaged in lots of different ways. I led moms groups. As I said, I volunteered in the public schools. I had the opportunity to lead different discussion groups, always with children. So whether it was math groups or Socratic seminars, it was always in ways that I could be engaged with educators and with children. And then ultimately, it's just led to where I am today, where I get paid to be an independent facilitator of Love and Logic, and I get to be a fitness instructor. So one way or another, I always find my way into a teaching role.
This could take a while. Easiest thing, go to my LinkedIn page. In all seriousness, I've been blessed with a career that started in New York City after I graduated from the University of Michigan, and I got into advertising sales, as I tell my students, before the internet and cell phones. And they look at me like, what? There was life before that. That's where I met my lovely wife of almost 25 years. We moved to Chicago, Illinois. We actually lived in the same neighborhood, I believe, the Wilmette, on the North Shore. We both moved, so that says something about us. We have common ground. I lived in Chicago for 16 years and continued in the media industry. During that time, actually a non-paid job that I loved, 8 years, youth soccer coach, hardest job of my life. Enjoyed that immensely. Also have been involved in non-paid jobs, such as helping run sometimes it's called Indian Princess, some people call it the Y Adventure Guides program, but basically a great program for young girls. And I did that for, I think, 10 years. When you have 3 girls, you're in those programs for quite a while. And then, as I said, about 8.5 years ago, my wife and I moved down here willingly, staying in the media world. I've worked with some of the largest media companies. Again, feel free to look at my LinkedIn profile and see all of them because it's been a pretty long 31 years. Right now, I'm currently a regional director. And if you watch on-demand television, that's where my subject matter expert is. We call it over-the-top television or connected TV. And that started from, I was the digital guy way back in the mid-90s, and then I became the advanced TV guy. And one day I don't know what's the next thing. But I started doing my teaching in North Texas about 3 years ago after I got my master's degree from Marist College.
Thank you. So that will conclude our question and answer portion. So at this time, I would like to invite our candidates to present their 2-minute closing statements. Since we began the opening remarks with you, Andrew, Stephanie, you'll start the closing remarks, followed by Andrew.
Thank you. When I decided to run for the trustee in the special election, I didn't need anyone's permission, just my family's support. No one asked me to run. No one asked me to be interviewed or vetted. No one asked me for my voting record in order to get an endorsement or support. No one asked me my stance on partisan issues which are not relevant to our duty as public school board trustees. I decided to run because what I will bring to the role of trustee, and because I believe students should be the center of what we as a school Our family, just like so many others, was drawn to Southlake for the excellent schools. The sense of community and that all of us are dragons was just the icing on the cake. And just as I encourage my own children and my students to reach for excellence, whatever that looks like for them, I will do the same for CISD. I will work collaboratively with current trustees and administration, skills I honed as a corporate trainer, to find innovative solutions and to incorporate best practices of high-performing districts around the country of which I've been a part. It all comes down to the students. They are the reason our wonderful teachers get up each day and work to meet the needs of every student in their classrooms, from our dragons with disabilities to our most gifted and everyone in between. And all those students, all dragons, deserve to feel welcome and safe in CISD. That they are why I am running, and that is what I have learned through thousands of hours of working and volunteering in and for public schools. It is why I am the best choice for the trustee position. Thank you.
Personally, I'd like to say thank you to the foundation. The fact that you put this together, Kush and your whole team, our students, everybody, thank you so much. Ms. Williams, thank you for being here. Also thank you to the community for the questions that you had submitted. I asked for your vote for one big reason. I feel like I have the right experience at the right time. We talked a little bit about some of the budget challenges we have. My passion to pay teachers who are so important. We agree on that. But I'd like to make sure that we retain them and attract new ones. And you've got to do that through paying them more. And that all goes back to the budget. Working with budgets that are hundreds of millions of dollars. I wouldn't even want to tell you the new budget I got this year. It's even much higher than that. I even looked at Cam the other day and said 119 million. Is that just for a semester? I'm used to big numbers. I'm used to big challenges. And I'm used to being sought out as a person who has the ideas, because the time for opinions is over in our community. The time for solutions and results is now. I feel like I have the skill set between my business acumen for 31 years, leading and building teams, as well as my academic experience in higher education. Going through COVID, I understand exactly what today's teachers have to struggle with, and I'm there to support them. I ask for your vote. I feel I'm the most qualified candidate, and I feel that we will be able to do wonderful things together with me on the board, joining my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie and Andrew. So before we say goodbye, just a reminder, tomorrow is the Hispanic Heritage Month, and we're celebrating that at the Town Square. And then also on October 30th, we have the Diwali Fest, and that's also at the Town Square. So please mark those on your calendars, and we want to see all of you there for those two events. So this concludes our Carroll ISD Board of Trustees Candidate Forum. I hope this was informative for all of you. On behalf of both Stephanie and all the volunteers at the Southlake Foundation, Kush, and the whole group, there's been a lot of people behind the scenes that you don't see here, but they've been working really hard at making sure that this event is a success for us. So on behalf of all of those, we want to say a big thank you to everybody, the candidates here, the audience here in the room, and also those on Zoom today. And for all the questions that you guys submitted. We couldn't accommodate all the questions, but I think we did our best given the time frame that we had. A big thanks to members of the community also for participating on this forum. And then there's folks here, the students from high school. Thank you to these guys. They spent their Saturday here with us. Thank you. Thank you. So again, we appreciate our candidates, Stephanie Williams and Andrew Yeager, for stepping up to serve the community. Really appreciate that. But one last thing, the board of trustees, the voting starts on Monday, right? Early voting is Monday, October 18th through Friday, October 29th. And then the last day of voting is Tuesday, November 2nd. Please mark those calendars on your calendar and please vote. So have a great evening and God bless America and go Dragons.